Just wait a few minutes to see if anybody signs on. Sorry for the last minute warning about this. Just woke up this morning and I didn't finish something that I started in our conversation yesterday. Hey, Pam, how are you? I didn't start something that I finished in our conversation yesterday that I said I would, so I figured I'd do it today. I'm just going to wait a few minutes to see if anybody else jumps on. Nice and warm out here this morning already. I already went for my bike ride. It was probably 80 degrees at 6 o'clock this morning. It's supposed to be, I think, 108 or 110 today. So trying to stay cool. One more day here, and then I jump on an airplane to Maui for 6 days. Get away and relax and have fun. Get out of the desert heat. How's it back on the East Coast, Pam? Is it warming up there or just mild, no more snow? You done with the snow finally? Been a funny year for weather all around, I believe. So. We got really good feedback from yesterday's live feed. Really good feedback from people that some of them just watch after the fact or whatever, but everybody liked it. People are starting to say we need to start getting paid for this, and that's our ultimate goal, but we need to build the audience first. We're all about helping people heal from their past wounds and having a better life because it's available. And a lot of people don't think it is. They're stuck in this quagmire of sadness and depression, which is real. But there is a way out, and we just got to find it. And what I was discovered yesterday too, talking to a few people afterwards and beforehand, that the lack of mental illness practitioners is pretty bad. And what's out there, now again, I'm just reading from what people are saying, but they don't have very good luck with psychiatrists and so on and so forth. And I find it just the opposite. I had really good psychiatrists, had really good help. In the last 12 years, it really helped me a lot. So, but it required me to do a lot of work. A lot of times people will go to a psychiatrist or psychologist and they just want them to give them a magic pill that's instantly going to fix them and take all their problems away. And that's just not going to happen. It's a process. So the pills are just there to help you get through that process. And I think yesterday, like I said, there's no magic cocktail that's going to help everybody. One magic cocktail is just going to help everybody. So that part of it's frustrating. It can be hard for a while because you got to find the right balance for each individual. And I've gone through it. And I've gone through it when I've had to adjust my meds in the past, and it's not fun. It's really not fun at all. But when they find the right combination, it's wonderful. So, one of the things I mentioned early yesterday is about, is it depression or is it sadness? And I touched on it, and I said, well, we'll talk about it later. Well, we talked about a lot of stuff, and I woke up this morning realizing I forgot to talk about that. And when I was getting my transcranial magnetic stimulation, TMS, treatment done a couple, 3 years ago, which helped me really change my life around. He actually gave me my life back in a way I didn't think I could have it back. No, I'll say this before I go any further, that the reality is that I've done a lot of work on myself, a lot of therapeutic work, a lot of journaling, a lot of digging, a lot of 12-step work. I got a good relationship with God. I've done a ton of work on myself. And depression, like I said, is real. It's a real clinical diagnosis. and it can be very severe in some people. And so I don't want to discount that because that is the reality of it. But for myself, and what this Dr. Sheet, the psychiatrist in the TMS, Chief TMS, I'm so far along in my recovery. He asked me this. He goes, Randy, ask yourself this question. Are you really depressed or is it just sadness? Wow. Wow, I never thought of it that way. The DSM-5, which is diagnostics, I just left my mind. DSM-5 it's what determines all diagnostic of the mental illness, addictions, depression, anxiety, all that. Anyways, this year they upgraded and said that if you are grieving the loss of a loved one for more than 2 weeks, according to the DSM-5, you are severely depressed. Now, are you or aren't you? I can't say that, but I also know that 2 weeks is not long enough to grieve the death of a loved one. So that's some very deep sadness, and I believe it was argued among a lot of psychologists that that's an incorrect diagnosis and it shouldn't be in there. It might be coming out, I think, in the next DSM. That's Diagnostic Statistical Manual is what it is, and the 5 is it's a 5th edition. So when the doctor asked me that, it's like, well, I never thought about that, because I think the word depression can be used too quick in a lot of situations. I'm just depressed today. Well, are you depressed or are you sad? Have you been diagnosed with clinical depression, and is your depression kicking up today? It's very possible. Or are you just sad that something happened, that sadness is over your being right now, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong being depressed either, but I think it's a fine line. And so I make sure for myself, I don't think, hey Stacy, I can't remember the last time I said that I was depressed. I'm sad. Okay, there's times I'm very sad right now, but I'm not depressed anymore. Don't get me wrong, the clinical depression is the diagnosis that I had, bipolar, but the meds I took helped that. And I also, here's the other thing is that, I didn't talk about it yesterday, is depression, bipolar, a lot of these mental illnesses are a direct result of unresolved childhood trauma, okay, or childhood trauma. And if we don't resolve that trauma at the onset, which many people don't, because people just, I just get over it, it's no big deal, blah, 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 blah. Then as the trauma might unfold more, as it continues in our life, maybe even, that causes our brain to be rewired in ways that aren't effective for us. And so resolving that trauma, it doesn't matter. It's best that they can do it when, if I could have had my trauma resolved when I was a kid, gone to people, and they would have listened to me and they would have helped me through it, instead of telling me it's just part of growing up, you won't be gay. There's countless things I heard. My life might have been, and most likely would have been, a lot better. But even as an adult, when I got into recovery, I started addressing all those issues from my childhood. And our neural pathways are plastic, so they can be I'm for lots of words. We can change the thought pattern. We can change the music that's going through our neural pathways. Instead of I'm worthless, I'm lazy, I'm this, I'm that. It's like, no, I'm not worthless. I'm worthy of goodness. I'm lovable. I'm loved by all. I'm a child of God. We can change the story we tell ourselves, but that takes time, and that takes people around us that will help us through that process. That's what it took for me. I had men in my life, 2 older gentlemen, my mentors and sponsors, that they would sometimes just put their hand on my shoulder and say, Randy, you're enough, and we love you. And I look and I go, what, are you crazy? But they go, no, you're enough. You're not more than, you're not less than. You're enough, and you're very lovable. And I had to hear that over and over and over again. Even though my wife would tell it to me constantly, I still didn't believe it. And so as I've done that, done all that work, and I've done really deep work, then I started feeling better about myself. Well, don't get me wrong, I still do struggle, but I'm a human being. We all struggle. The truth be told, we all struggle with something. But I've done all that work. I went through the process of therapy, 7 years, twice a week. I was doing it. And there's days I didn't want to go, but I went because I knew I had to do it. Doing my step work, there's things my sponsor would tell me to do, my mentors would tell me to do. I didn't want to do it, but I knew I didn't want to stay where I was at. So I kept doing it to where the point where my general anxiety disorder is pretty much, it's gone. If I wake up, if I have anxiety now, I got to ask myself, what did I do to cause this anxiety? What did I do to cause this? You know, and it's usually some situation I put myself in and got me out, you know, all angst out. So the general anxiety disorder, for the most part, is completely gone. And generally, when I do have anxiety, it's because of something that I've done. Hey, Alma. Same with the depression, the bipolar. And my wife, she knows it, and I know it. You know, when you go to bed at nighttime and your life's wonderful and everything's really good and cool, but then you wake up the next morning and go, what happened? How come I'm feeling this doom and gloom over me when I went to bed last night, everything was okay? And the reality is I have absolutely no reason in my life whatsoever to be upset, to be depressed, to be anxious. I've got a beautiful life, you know. But that's part of the bipolar in me that I don't like. But what I do now is I recognize it instantly. My wife recognizes it. And she'll tell me, she goes, Randy, you're down today. I go, yeah, I am. So I don't fight it. Love you too, Alma. I don't fight it. I go with it and I work through it. It doesn't take me long to get out of it. You know, it might be a day, maybe 2 days or whatever. But I talk about it with the right people. And my wife is my number one confidant in all that she's really the one that understands me more than anybody. I mean, she's been married to me for 35 years, for God's sake. She knows me inside now. So, you know, the bipolar is real. Okay. You know, it's controlled. I'm open, I'm honest, I'm transparent. It's the only way I feel that I think that we have to be that way to help other people. I'm down just to one med that I take. The TMS has done a wonderful job, and that controls. I tried to get off of it, but my brain chemistry is not right. And okay, it's not right. Nothing I did wrong about it. I wasn't the one that abused myself. Well, I kind of did with drugs and alcohol for 30-some years, but it's all right. So I recognize if I have a down syndrome right now, not the Down syndrome, but if I'm feeling down, I know where it's coming from. All right. So I just accept it and I allow myself to feel it and work out of it. And then on all other cases, am I really depressed or am I sad? It's just a real simple question. Am I depressed or am I sad? And the reality is, I could say probably with absolute certainty, at least 95% of the time, the other 5% is the bipolar situations where I crash. 95% of the time, I'm just sad about something. But again, I've done a lot of work. But so no matter where you're at, ask yourself that question: Am I sad or am I depressed? I think it's a very powerful question to ask ourselves. And with the suicide yesterday, there was a lot to cover yesterday. And like I said, we got some excellent feedback from some people, really good feedback, which is good, which means we're going in the right direction, and we appreciate that. But, I was reading some other posts from different people after the depression, the suicide stuff. And, some people are pretty bitter about everything else. And they said, and I have to agree, why is it when a celebrity dies, commits suicide, or a celebrity is raped, okay, or a celebrity is a pedophile, why is it then and only then does it make the news? Why? I mean, it happens every day to normal people. I mean, 1 in 4 boys and 1 in 3 girls are sexually abused on a daily basis, okay, before the age of 18. Are sexually abused. But why is it only, and then at that point in time, everybody wants to jump on the bandwagon, and they know everything about abuse, they know everything about mental illness. I mean, and that's really, where are you the rest of the time? Where are you the rest of the time? Where are you when your friend is, your next door neighbor or your good friend is in deep distress? Why? And a lot of you, I know a lot of you are helping people, so I might be preaching the choir to people, but that's when we need to be with those people. When I rode my bike across America last year, I heard absolutely hellacious stories about abuse, and nobody was there for these people. Not the government, not nobody. But yet, when a movie star gets the headlines, or a governor is a pedophile, or what, the headlines are all about the abuse when it's happening every day to everyday people. So I'm reading almost posts right now. Yeah, you're right. It can be harder in some days than others. Absolutely. You just keep praying and doing the right thing. The next, you know what to do. Your next indicated step. And so, one of the things that people are upset about, that I'm most upset about right now, and you don't hear a lot about this, but statistically, people, 22 military, ex-military servicemen that go to war to defend this country, to give us our freedom. 22 suicides a day from veterans. 22 a day. That's unacceptable, because they can't get the help that they need. We send them to, our government sends them to war. And I'm not, my government is our government. I support whatever it is. I don't always like it. But why are they not taking care of them when they come back? And there's a lot to that suicide going back to when they enlisted and before they enlisted. A lot of servicemen have already experienced childhood trauma before they enter into the service. And I've talked to a couple of them before they've entered into the service. Right? And they're going into the service, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them, from the stories I've heard and the people I've talked to, they go into the service to prove themselves as a man. And what's the first thing that happens in the service? They beat you down as a man to build you back up, okay? And I've had one guy in particular that he always has to sit up against the back wall wherever he goes. He can't sit. He has to have his back against the wall. And I've talked to him about, the VA and the help that's available there to him. What he told me was this. He goes, Randy, if I tell them I had childhood trauma, then anything that happened after that, they don't take care of. So all the PTSD from the war doesn't count, because he already had trauma going into the war. This is what this gentleman told me, and that is unfair. There's a lot of statistics on suicide. For every one suicide, there's 25 attempts. Hold on. We didn't have time yesterday to go through all this. I don't know where it's at. Hold on. Sorry. Should have been better prepared for you. What? So I think you heard us say yesterday that we're the 10th leading cause of death in the U.S. is suicide. 44,965 suicides each year. For every one suicide, there's 25 attempts. Men die by suicide 3.35 times more often than women. And 123 suicides per day, according to all the statistics. I've dealt with people myself that have I've had one kid commit suicide, 39 years old, beautiful family. He was a beautiful guy himself. Trauma, childhood trauma. He just couldn't get over it. And he kept relapsing, and he finally hung himself. I've had another one while I was on the phone, childhood trauma, and he had some severe mental illness. I had him on the phone, and he'd taken 50 Seroquel. I had 911 on one ear and him in the other. And he attempted suicide. And I know another attempted suicide that failed, and it failed pretty badly. But it was as a result of something that was said to him earlier in the day that just triggered. And it wasn't nothing bad. It just was. When we talk to people, we have to be very careful how we talk. So all this stuff goes hand in hand. Drug addiction, alcoholism. I mean, Gabor Mate is just, the question is not why the addiction, but why the pain. And addiction always originates from pain. So let's just be cautious. Let's be, we as human beings, my feeling, and Topeka, we've talked about this quite a bit. This was last minute, so she's got stuff she's doing today. That's why I did this by myself. We as human beings, I don't know if we're afraid to help people. I don't know if we're afraid to get involved. I don't know if it's that I don't know what it is, but we need to start being more compassionate and loving towards people. It doesn't matter if we know them or don't know them. I think I said yesterday, the words you say to somebody in a conversation can literally save their life or push them over the edge to commit suicide. It could just be, you've been dealing with this for a long time. It's about time you grow up and get over it. How many times? It could just be that one time. I can't, there it goes again. I'm worthless. I can't get over. Something must be wrong with me. Bang. I'm talking real. We have to be very, very cautious with our words when we're around people. And if we haven't been taught how to talk to people growing up, it's hard to be cautious with people. And so it's relearning things. So I don't want to keep going on this too long. But I just wanted to touch on that, hey, is it sadness or is it depression? Just ask yourself that question and be honest with yourself. It very well could be depression, or it very well could just be you're very sad. My dog, I had to put my dog down today. I'm depressed. Depressed is a pretty strong word. I had to put my dog down. I'm extremely sad. I just want to go sit in the corner and cry right now because I have to put a dog. These are examples. It didn't happen. It's happened to me in the past, but not right now. I'm sad. I'm not depressed. Yesterday I read, if you didn't see it, you can go on YouTube and you can see yesterday I read all the signs of depression. If you're anxious, again, not discounting general anxiety disorder, ask yourself, why am I anxious? What did I do today, or what causes anxiousness to come on? Just do a little self-examination. It might very well be possible that if you got that disorder, it just kicked in. It's very possible. And it's also very possible that in some way you created that anxiety yourself. Just some things to think about that work for me. I'm not saying these are right or these wrong. Okay, these are just, based on the last 12 years, working with people, going to school, being educated, working with therapists, working with psychologists, working with people, and what I've learned about myself. These are just things I want to pass on. Because oftentimes people look at the medical field as the end all, the be all. And the reality is, the medical field is great. They saved my life, but they got their flaws just like we do. So I hope that kind of helps a little bit. I know it's last minute, and we're going to do more of this real talk. We don't want to bring people down. That's for sure. But if we can't talk about what's really going on with us, what's really going on in the world, the reality of it, if we can't talk about that part of it, then we can't talk about the solution. Because we can talk solution all day, but if we don't know what the problem really is, then how are we ever going to solve anything? How are we going to solve anything? So I hope that gives you a little more insight to what we did yesterday. And I'm leaving tomorrow, driving to San Diego tomorrow. We're leaving Saturday morning for Maui. So there'll be no live feed next week, but we'll be back at it. Hey, Phil, how you doing? We'll be back at it the week after next with more live feeds. I'm just trying to help everybody grow, help everybody realize that, the reality is this stuff happens. It's real. And you just can't wish your way out of it, pray your way out of it, snap your fingers and be done with it. It takes work to heal a lot of these wounds. And remember, it doesn't define who you are. What happened to you, what's going on in your life right now, whether depression, anxiety, whatever's going on, whatever it is, that doesn't define you. That's not who you are. It's just what's happened to you. Okay, and I can tell you right now for myself, my story is that I wouldn't change my life for anything. Because had I have not gone through everything I went through in my life, and believe me, it wasn't fun. The amount of abuse I suffered, it wasn't fun. But had I not gone through that, I wouldn't be the man, I wouldn't be the husband, I wouldn't be the father or the grandfather that I am today. And I wouldn't be able to help men and women and mentor them the way I can help them today. Everything happens for a reason. And I just had to come to that place in recovery of acceptance that, yeah, everything has happened for a reason, and I can see it now. And when we're in the middle of it, we can't always see it. So just remember that we're all children of God. We're all loved. We're all lovable. We all deserve the best of life, even though sometimes we don't feel like it. But we do. You're no better, you're no worse than anybody else. You're no less than, you're no more than. We are, in my view, we are all equal as human beings. We might have different statuses in life. We might have different letters before our name. We might have different titles before our name. But those are just titles. Those are just letters. As human beings, take all that stuff away, and we're still all human beings, and we're all equal in the eyes of God. So try to remember that. Be kind to each other, love each other, be compassionate towards each other. Remember, we only have one life. Make the best of it. And if nobody tells you they love you today, remember this, that Randy always loves you, and more importantly, God does. Thanks for listening. You guys have a blessed weekend. I'll see you in a week. Love you all. Thanks. Bye.